Hey everyone! In this video, I want to talk about why you should upgrade to the latest version of CSM, and more importantly, why you should always be as current as possible. With the latest version of CSM newly released, I'm sure many of you are considering an upgrade. There may even be certain features or bug fixes in this version that you've been specifically waiting for that makes this particular version a strong upgrade candidate. Of course, I also know from conversations with many of you that upgrading to the latest version can sometimes be a scary prospect or can be met with some resistance within your organization. Some companies have very strict policies when it comes to even applying a small patch upgrade, and I've heard other situations that require delaying an upgrade for good reason, but hopefully what I'm about to share will provide you with some additional support for working within those procedures to help justify your next Cherwell upgrade. The first thing to consider is that because of Cherwell's architecture, with extensive content and configuration on top of a relatively small, powerful, highly flexible, but ultimately general-purpose execution platform, when you upgrade from one Cherwell version to another, what's actually changing is probably less than 10%, certainly less than 20% of what you think of when you think about your Cherwell platform. That's because all that gets upgraded is the platform. Your content stays exactly the same unless you specifically make changes to it. The only exception to this is that in some cases, Cherwell will make non-functional changes to your system's definitions in order to allow you to take advantage of the new features, if and only if you choose to do so. The platform is entirely backward compatible with your content, no matter how long ago you created it. This means that, practically speaking, by upgrading, you automatically get bug fixes without doing any additional effort, but you only get access to the new features, which you can opt into at any time, rather than having those new features forced upon you, like in other systems, that if activated by default might change how your system works in undesirable ways. Now, as with any software, this is not to say that new versions are not without their own new bugs, and occasionally Cherwell does deprecate and remove features, but that isn't a reason not to upgrade. It just means that I wouldn't recommend blindly upgrading in production without doing some level of sanity testing first. This sort of testing is also recommended to ensure that the upgrade went smoothly anyway, as I'm sure we all know from experience that sometimes computers will do unexpected things. The next thing to consider is that being on the latest version allows you to take advantage of the most up-to-date regulatory and compliance features. While you may not have to face something quite as complex as GDPR, whatever regulations you do have to contend with will be much easier to handle if you don't have your hands tied behind your back. Furthermore, each new version comes with additional security fixes and continuously strives to meet the latest in security best practices, which means that you'll be better equipped to meet your own security standards and expectations and make your CISO happy. The third benefit of being on the most recent version of Cherwell, or any software really, is that it is much easier for everybody involved when you need to get support. In fact, some application vendors will flat out ask you to try to reproduce any issue you report in the most recent version of the software. They're not just being insensitive to your plight, it really is easier to track down a root cause and fix a bug, or find a workaround in the latest version of the software. I say this as a career software engineer who has worked on the software engineering escalation teams at multiple different organizations, not just at Cherwell. Within the support team, it's far easier for a technician to try to set up and reproduce an issue in the latest version of the software. They may even already have it set up and configured, since the goal is for the majority of customers to be using that version. It's also easier if they don't have to context switch between how a particular feature may have worked differently between different versions. In the event a developer needs to look at code, the older your version is, the more likely that the code looks very different now, which complicates the investigation and any potential fixes. For some of the more elusive bugs, the only way to determine if a fix worked may be to run it in your specific system, which inevitably will require an upgrade to the latest version anyway. It's worth mentioning patches here. It's not uncommon for software vendors to get requests to patch a specific older version of their software outside their standard support process. I strongly caution software companies against this for one very simple reason. The more versions you support, the higher your support load will be, exponentially so. What this really means is that encouraging your customers to stay up to date on the latest version may sound like a hassle, but it really allows you to more effectively serve your customers. Of course, you also have to make sure there's an adequate incentive to stay on the latest version, but with the progress Cherwell makes with every new version and the reasons I mentioned here, I think there's compelling value in each upgrade. For those of you interested in more details about patching strategies, both for single applications and for operating systems, I'll do a video specifically about that in a little bit. If that's something you're interested in, leave a comment below and let me know. The final reason I recommend being on the latest version of Cherwell, and again, this probably applies to any software package, is that the more recent your current version, the easier your upgrade is likely to be. My thinking here goes something like this. If something has the potential to break after going from A to C, wouldn't you rather catch a potential warning sign after going from A to B first rather than have to deal with the fallout all at once? I've seen this with Cherwell customers going through long overdue upgrades, and I've also seen this myself going through upgrades with other software packages. Upgrading regularly takes a bit of time every so often, while if I wait several years to upgrade, it turns into a massive project, sometimes with unexpected downtime or additional delays, where I can't even use the newer version for much longer than my intended maintenance window. I guess really the short version of everything I've said here is do yourself a favor and stay as up to date as possible. You'll get the latest bug fixes without having new features forced upon you. You'll have access to those new features. You'll be in a better position to follow best practices and stay compliant. You'll get better support by putting everybody involved in the most knowledgeable situation, and you'll make future upgrades that much easier. If you have a unique situation that I didn't account for here, or you want some sympathy for any upgrade issues you've run into in the past, go ahead and leave a comment below. If you have questions about how to upgrade, or how to verify that your system was successfully upgraded, leave a comment as well, or shoot me an email at the email address listed in the description. If you're not already subscribed, please click the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified when more videos are released. I'll be specifically posting a few about some of the new features in the latest version of Cherwell over the next few weeks, so stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching and have a great week.